So let's talk about the first rules that we're getting for the new squats. What can we learn from the stat line of their main troops choice, the Hearthkyn warriors? Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I just wanted to talk about a Warhammer community rules preview from earlier in the week, one that unfortunately I wasn't around to make a video for at the time, but I still wanted to talk about this rather fun squat stat line. I think rules teasers for these guys are going to be a bit more interesting than most other factions. They're not merely updating rules for other models, but we're basically going to be seeing a faction being established bit by bit and how they're going to work in game. This teaser was maybe a bit light touch, but even just knowing the basic stats for their standard troopers is going to set a fair few precedents for how other things are going to work in the codex and give you a bit of a baseline to build off. So the article came out a good few days ago, and it confirmed that their main troops choice is going to be known as the Hearthkyn, of course spelling kin with a Y just to make it extra copyrightable, a little bit weirder looking, but also I guess a bit more unique to 40k. What they've given us is the profile for the standard Hearthkyn warrior, the one that they showed off in that April the 2nd reveal trailer, and also a few interesting bits about their squad sergeant and a couple of rules for the unit. They've got a movement of 5 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, strength and toughness 4, 1 wound, 2 attacks, leadership 7 and a 4+ save. Perhaps a slightly middle of the road profile overall, not the most elite troops in 40k, but certainly not the most basic hordes either. The movement of 5 is pretty slow, down there with orcs and necrons, so despite those snazzy iron looking feet, their short stature is going to have them a little bit more clunky to manoeuvre in game. It seems that the leagues of Votann train their warriors well. They get weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, so better than standard guardsmen or Tau fire warriors, and I'm guessing that's a bit more of a training thing, as I don't think there'd be any real reason that they should be able to shoot any better than standard humans, as it does basically seem like they're still standard ab-humans but with a bit better technology. In melee they will be punching pretty hard, hitting on 3s, strength 4 and 2 attacks is as good as a current space marine right now. Certainly not too bad, and it looks like they could bully some light infantry fairly well in combat. Defense wise, with toughness 4, 1 wound and a 4+ save, they're kind of similar to Necron warriors before reanimation protocols. Not too bad, and they're going to be a bit harder to shift compared with things like Skitari or Guardsmen. And finally, that leadership 7 will put them on par with Tau, and again a bit higher than standard Guardsmen, maybe speaking of their more intense training. I feel like just for the standard warriors, I'd really quite like to know the stat line of that gun, as it is looking really quite oversized and dangerous for a model of its size. I'm going to guess that they'll be packing some serious close range firepower, and that might be the most interesting thing about the troops. Otherwise, apparently they're going to be led by Thanes into battle. That's going to be their equivalent of squad sergeants. They're spelt Theyn, alternate Middle English for the more normal Thane. As squad sergeants go, they're going to be a bit elevated compared with most. They get the standard +1 attack and +1 leadership that's pretty much universal throughout 40k. But as with Eldar Exarchs and Orc Knobs, they get a little bit tougher as well, having 2 wounds rather than 1. From those shadowy silhouettes that we had previewed, it looks like at least one person in the unit could take a power pick of some sort. I'd be kind of surprised if at least the unit's leader couldn't take that, if not more. Otherwise, within the flavour text of the article, they did give us a few other hints. They said you could take these in 20 model squads, so fairly hoardy. I'd guess their points cost is probably going to be somewhere in the region of something like 8 to 12, depending on just how strong those guns are. If they're really quite powerful, then probably in the upper end. If the buffs available are anywhere similar to the AdMech ones for their Skitari Rangers and Vanguard, then maybe max 20-man units might actually be viable. They will just need to have sufficient hitting power to make that worth it though. If the unit's base damage output just isn't quite impressive enough, it's still not going to be worth synergizing for a whole bunch of buffs, particularly as large squads have some downsides, things like low leadership, as the orcs will tell you. Finally, just one other teaser, they said they have a knack for staying around in melee, which sounds quite specific. I feel like if they just were talking about their generic toughness with toughness 4 and their 4+ save, they wouldn't have specified specifically melee. So my guess is that probably one of their army special rules will be that they get some sort of defensive bonus when they're in combat, maybe something like +1 to saves against melee attacks or similar to that. I feel like overall between all that, these guys might add up to something like Space Marines on Horde mode, maybe fairly similar power both in terms of range and melee, and at least reasonably hard to shift for the cost. Often with very generalist units, they'll often be a little bit overcosted compared with specialists who just focus on range or melee damage though, so I guess we'll have to see how attractive they are compared with the rest of the others. Otherwise, in another article that I didn't really talk about at the time, Games Workshop have given us a few other teasers as to what else might be coming for the squats. I think it was quite cool to actually find out about the Votann ancestor cores. It's kind of annoying to call them the Leagues of Votann when you don't actually know what Votann means. Apparently the Votann are ancient decaying AI supercomputers, each league being formed around one, and they basically use it for calculations, battle strategy, and presumably a whole load of other useful functions within their society, though apparently they're falling to bits over time and getting more unreliable, so quite nice to see that the squats aren't getting away from the grimdark horror of 40k, I guess. It sounds like outsiders were in a similar position to us not knowing what they meant though, as apparently their existence is kept completely secret if at all possible. Maybe not a bad idea to keep them under wraps from the ABMEC in particular, who've held artificial intelligences to be pretty heretical ever since they tried to rise up and destroy all humanity. Apparently there'd be more wars with the Imperium if they knew of their existence. Otherwise, the article had this artwork that looks like there's going to be a few other units for the leagues coming. That guy out the front who is operating that Ancestor Corps looks like he's going to be some sort of commander for them. I don't know whether or not he'll be the equivalent of a captain or something. Or maybe the squat version of a Tech Marine perhaps. It does look like he might have a Mechadendrite going on above him there. We've also got some pretty hefty, chunky armoured units in the background there. They're far more armoured than those standard Hearthkyn squads that we've seen, so they might be the reincarnation of Squat Exo Armour, a unit that I think most people would have predicted coming back, as it's one of the few nice iconic ones that the squats had when they originally existed. I don't feel like they bother putting them in artwork if they weren't going to release models of them, so I guess it's nice enough to have a first look here. It seems that we should be getting a few more previews next Wednesday as well, on the Warhammer 40k day in Warhammer Fest. There was a Squats or Leagues of Votann icon in the Warhammer Fest promotional material, so I'd strongly suspect that we're going to see some more models. My guess will be the best of the models in the Hearthkyn Troops choice, the ones they already teased some silhouettes for. I'll certainly be talking any more Votann information that we find out on the channel though, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see that. So anyway, let me know what you think of these new Hearthkyn rules then. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below as always. Let me know any wild predictions that you might have as to what that gun might do. It is looking pretty chunky and dangerous looking. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way that you can help support if you'd like to, and that's my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description below. Element Games is a UK based discount retailer. They typically give 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's miniatures, and if you click the link before ordering anything through them, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics. It doesn't cost you any more whatsoever when you buy, so it can be a good way to get a small discount compared with buying at Games Workshop, and also help keep the videos coming with Auspex Tactics. If you live over in the USA as well, I do also have an Amazon link down there too. Again, that works in basically the same way. Click the link, order whatever off Amazon, and a small amount goes to help support the channel. Again, can just be one extra way to help support if you'd like to. In any case, an absolutely massive thank you for listening. Looking forward to covering more Leagues of Votann news in the future, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.